So we're down to the Keating Company.
Yeah, that's the next one. No, sorry about that. We're just lost my spot in my book. The next item is for the award of multi-prime contracts, general, electrical, and mechanical construction for the Conshohocken Station Parking Garage Project. The proposed three-tier garage will provide 338 total parking spots, along with an adjacent surface lot, providing a total of 529 parking spots for overriding passengers. The work includes garage foundations and parking decks, stairs, elevator towers, and lobby, new stormwater management basin, and trenching. The garage is integral to PennDOT's I-76 Integrated Corridor Management Project and will allow real-time information regarding travel times and available parking spaces to variable message signs located on I-76. For the general construction, 4 bids were received, and Daniel J. Keating Company submitted the lowest bid for $19,248,500, which is approximately 1% lower than staff's reconciled estimate. For the electrical construction, 3 bids were received, and Phillips Brothers Electrical Contractor submitted the lowest bid in the amount of $5,498,000, which is approximately 9% higher than staff's reconciled estimate. For the mechanical construction, 3 bids were received, and Dolan Mechanical Inc. submitted the lowest bid for $628,500, which is approximately 6% higher than staff's reconciled estimate. All 3 proposed awardees agreed to extend the bid price guarantee beyond the original 90 days until August 3, 2023. All 3 have and are currently performing satisfactory work for the authority, and their bid pricing is deemed fair and reasonable and recommended for award. The disadvantaged business enterprise goal for this project was set at 21% for general construction, 11% for electrical, and 7% for mechanical, and all 3 have submitted adequate justification to support their intent to meet their respective DBE goals.
Andy, this is Rob. I just want to give the other board members an update on this. So
We're anxiously awaiting that, Rob.
Sure.
So our staff, Ken, Lawrence, and I have had several meetings with Conshohocken Borough representatives. I would describe them as very productive. We have talked with them about a variety of alternatives to just proceeding pursuant to this contract. We agreed to advertise, as Andy indicated, so that option of the existing garage remains on the table for a potential vote. But even as of today, we have gotten an indication that Conshohocken still wants to continue talking with us before next week's meeting about alternatives and pass forward. So that's where we are with them. They've been they didn't start out particularly cordial, but they became very cordial, productive, transparent. We've exchanged a lot of information with them. They've gotten back to us after they've had their meetings. And so alternatives to this are still being discussed.
Thanks, Rob, for your hard work on this. We appreciate it.
Are the alternatives being discussed with the other 2 partners in this?
So Jody can probably weigh in on that. I think we feel, at least what has been communicated to us, is that the other alternatives would include providing the same or materially the same number of parking spaces ultimately. And so we don't believe that would jeopardize the funding from our other 2 partners. But maybe Jody can talk a little bit more about those actual conversations. But the whole impetus of this is it would allow for us to do things that would provide a little bit of a return for us, but it would also provide materially the same number of parking spaces that the project originally contemplated.
In discussions with our funding partners and the elected officials in this area that have been helpful in gaining funding for the project, I think the main issues that we need to resolve are to continue to have a smart garage design and that it communicates with the ITS system on the highway so that people can either avoid getting on the highway and using the station to commute or being on the highway and then diverted off of it. So that component was essential to receiving additional funds for this from the CMAQ program. there is a certain amount of spaces that were modeled with this project for air quality conformance with DVRPC and our regional planning organization. And we have further discussions with them about what the number of parking spaces would need to be. But this, as Rob has stated, this is still would maintain a very significant number of parking spaces for our commuters. So might not have much of an impact to that modeling effort. Those conversations would proceed more once we've, solidified with the borough what they're willing to accept.
And what is the alternative use?
So what we've discussed with them, Mark, is actually several different things, but potentially a mixed use with some residential on top of the parking garage. We have reached out to, with their blessing, the borough's blessing, to several developers who expressed a lot of interest in that, including the developer of the property across the street who is underparked. I mean, they're parking by code, but they're underparked. A fallback thing that we've also discussed is if there's no ability to proceed with residential development, that there could be leasing of some of the parking spaces to either that developer or somebody else, because we don't believe that the total number of parking spaces that would be generated there would really be needed for our use. I mean, it's a lot of spaces. It's between the existing spaces we have at the train station that we're replacing and the number of surface and structured parking at the new garage, we're over 600 spaces. We have 450 riders currently there a day. So there's clearly going to be some excess parking. So that's another alternative that's being discussed. That
So-
answer your question, Mark?
Yeah, it does. And listen, I do transit-oriented development, so I completely understand it
Right.
and support the furtherance of the conversation. Just as would it go out for an RFP if we did that for
Yes.
Okay.
It's exactly what we would do. One of the things, I don't want to get into the weeds unless we want to, but one of the things is when we talk to all the developers, every single one of them said that the garage itself, not necessarily the number of spaces, but it'd have to be redesigned because you wouldn't design a
Right.
garage just by putting residential on top of it. It would have to be designed in a way that would accommodate that. So that would delay the process. And we've worked with the borough also in providing temporary parking spaces so that they're not disadvantaged if the actual construction of the garage took a little bit longer.
Right. And what then do we plan to do? Because this isn't all going to be worked out, I assume, by next Thursday, right? So we're gonna.
So we are, and as of 10 minutes before this call, got an email from the borough because they met last night that they are willing to sit down and try to come up with a memorandum of understanding with us that we could potentially have in place before next week's meeting. So we'll be working on that diligently before our meeting next week. And if we have that understanding, then that's how we would proceed rather than just proceeding with the bid as it exists.
Right. So we table that. We table
Yes.
the bid as it exists and
Yes.
run this.
Right, but we wanted, in case we weren't going to get there, we wanted to have this, the ability to vote on it as is, because as Andy said, the contract is only extended through August 3rd, and we won't want to lose that bid.
Okay. Thank you, Rob, for all your work.
Mark,
Thanks,
I will
Rob.
say,
I
yeah,
appreciate it.
Mark, I wanted to say that if we get this memorandum of understanding, I think, and I've said this, I think you could be really helpful in this because this is what you do. And so we would clearly want to bring you into this process.
Happy to. And thanks for updating us. Thanks.
Yep. Okay.
Mr. Trubman still here? Okay. Is he asking about the Conshohocken garage?
He'll be on in a minute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Mr. Trubman. Yes, we can.
Yeah,
Welcome.
I just wanted to speak today about the Conshohocken parking garage. I think the issues that board members brought up in the past are still very much in play. And in fact, if anything, some of the information today only makes the argument for holding off on this project stronger. It's absurd to be spending almost $50 million total on a parking garage for a station that doesn't need it. I mean, by SEPTA's own numbers, most of this garage would be empty. One thing I found that was very interesting today was while the municipality has claimed in the past that flooding would make any other use of the site impossible, it sounds like SEPTA and the municipality are very aware that there are multiple developers interested in developing the site as a mixed-use building, which would seem to disprove the idea that this land can't be used for anything else, let alone something more productive like a mixed-use building. It seems like this project really needs to, at a minimum, needs to go back to the drawing board. It's absurd to commit this much money to a project just because you're worried about expiring contracts. You should certainly just accept that this needs to be reconsidered and going back to the drawing board. And I would love to see someone from SEPTA consider how this project is directly opposed to all the goals established by the Reimagining Regional Rail Project. This agency has committed to pivoting away from a commuter rail model that relies on park and ride infrastructure. So it makes no sense to be committing this much money to building a giant parking garage that will mostly be empty in a urbanized area. So it's time to just kind of table this project and at a minimum start over again. You can always go back out and bid again if necessary, but don't be bullied into using this project by the municipality. I'd also point out that SEPTA is a creation of the state as not constrained by Conshohocken's zoning. You guys can do what you want with your own land. So don't get bullied into spending a massive amount of money by a tiny municipality that wants you to pay for their parking that won't even be used by SEPTA riders. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that concludes the Operations Committee business. Thanks, everyone.